The Adam Carolla Show presents Kirstie Alley's birthday cocktail party for January 12th. Let's see who's invited. Howard Stern is here. Joe Frazier's going down. Rush Limbaugh steps up to the microphone. Hey, it's Melanie C. We all know her as Sporty Spice. And underneath all that hair, Rob Zombie. The human highlight film, Dominique Wilkins. Oliver Platt. And the richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos. That sounds like a party. Let's get back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Kirstie Alley has joined us. Good to see you. Good to meet you. I'm not even sure if I've met you before.
I don't think we've met.
That is weird, because I've been hanging around this town for 25 years. You got here before I did. You think at some point our paths would cross?
You would think, but I'm sort of a recluse. So unless you were in my living room, it might not have happened.
Well, I've always been a fan of yours, and I guess I caught on to you. I probably first saw you on Cheers back when. And I was reading about you today in preparation for this, and there's something that it might not mean a lot to people who are listening, but for someone who's done it, meaning Dancing with the Stars, you did a dance where you got a perfect score. You got 3 10s from the judges. I am telling everyone that is nearly impossible. Who is someone, my highest score was 17 and a half or something. Like getting a 30 on a dance is almost impossible. And that means A, you can dance, but B, you're super focused. Like you just work, you have to work it and repeat it over and over again.
No, I think it was a mercy fuck, really. I think I'm older and they felt sorry for me. So they said, give her 3 10. She's good for the ratings.
Yeah, the mercy fuck is like an 8 and 2 9s, but 3 10s. They don't just hand that shit out.
I did try. I didn't work that hard. I tried to work, but my partner yelled at me all the time because I wasn't working hard enough. I mean, when I started it, I wasn't taking it that seriously, but towards the end, maybe it's like war or something. It's scary.
I was talking to Mike August, who I know booked you, and he called me the other day, and he said, I was just on the phone with Kirstie Alley for an hour and 15 minutes, and it sounded like I was talking to you. He said, you guys have to talk. Every single thing she said sounds like it's coming out of your mouth. So I don't know why it took this long for us to get together.
I know. I was just listening to your podcast with Rob Schneider, and I thought, what are we going to talk about? Because you guys talked about everything. It's like there were 3. It was like the triplets, and I'm like, what am I going to now talk about? What do I have to say?
Well, we'll delve into everything. You're in where are you? Are you in Wichita right now?
I'm in Wichita, Kansas. This is my hometown, and I've come here to see my dad. My dad's 96. He's in a nursing home. And they've got him on lockdown. So my dad luckily is on the first floor. So I can go to his window, and he's 96. So I don't know. I have him on FaceTime and I'm at his window, and he's deaf. So it's a bit of a, I say, no, look at the FaceTime when I'm asking you a question so he can read my lips.
Your dad, so you grew up in almost a different era. I mean, it was, but I mean, it didn't seem like, it seemed like 200 years ago. Your dad ran a lumber mill or sawmill or something like that. Your mom was a housewife.
He owned a wholesale lumber company.
A lumber company.
Yeah.
And you grew up in a very kind of traditional way, right?
I'd say yes.
And you went off to college, but you soon dropped out to make your way to LA. Is that correct?
No, that's not really correct. I went to college because I was afraid my boyfriend from high school was going to cheat on me because he was going to college. So I just went to college and I took riflery and flower arranging and creative writing. And then when he graduated, I married him.
Mm.
And then I married him. And then I left him. Then I went to California.
Oh, okay. Sorry for screwing that up. Were you involved or did you work in interior design for a while?
Yeah, I was an interior designer professionally for about 6 years that's one of the things. I had all these jobs. When I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't really move there to be an actress, but then I decided I wanted to be one. So I was being an interior designer there. I'd been one in Kansas for 4 years professionally. And then when I went to LA, I was being an interior designer, working in a hat store. You remember those cowboy hats called Caspel Tweed? And they were sort of groovy looking cowboy hats that everybody wore for a while. Yeah, well, I worked for Malin Lucas at Caspel Tweed. And then I was a housekeeper for men only, because they really appreciate it if you make their magazines look nice, put a nice roll of toilet paper, put their towels. I just got so many accolades for my good work as a housekeeper, and I decided to not do any housekeeping for any women because they're snobby about it. And men are like, oh my God, look at the way you put my magazines. Oh my God, where'd you get these flowers?
Well, don't you kind of think they were all attracted to you?
No, I don't think they were attracted to me. They didn't act like they were attracted to me. I just think they liked the way I folded their towels or something. I don't know.
Well, I always think about people, like people like yourself who are very physically attractive, like you're a very good looking person. And well, listen, I got a TV, I got eyeballs. And I'm just saying, it seemed like a lot of people would probably come up to you and say, you should model, you should act, you should do something like that. Was that the case when you were younger?
Well, no, when I was in Kansas, people said things to me like, you should stop snorting Coke. You should stop doing whatever you're doing. You should, go back to school. You're actually an idiot. Kansas sort of puts you straight somehow. I don't know. The Midwest sort of puts you straight. I wasn't really impressing people then. And when I moved to Hollywood, I don't think I was impressing anybody there. I think I got acting jobs like I got to be a cheerleader. I could jump really high. I wasn't popular, but I could jump really high. So I got to be a cheerleader at my school. And then in Hollywood, I my first job was, basically looking like a Vulcan. So I got that job, but those are freaky, That's
was Star Trek, the movie, I think, right?
Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan.
Right. And, of course, Veronica's Closet and Cheers, Summer School. Forgot about that movie. Look Who's Talking, all three of them, I guess, with Travolta, right?
Yes.
Was that a Scientology thing? Did you know Travolta through Scientology?
No, I had never met him before. In fact, I met him for the very first time when I was really full of myself. I don't know what movie I just done. I just finished something and I thought I was like the best fucking actress to ever hit the planet. And so I was called about doing this movie with Travolta, and I was so cocky. I was like, well, let me meet him. So my agent had John and his agent come over to his house, and I met him. And that was the first time I'd met him. And I don't think he knew who the hell I was, really. I never asked him that question, but I don't think he really knew who I was.
Are you still involved with Scientology?
Yeah.
How does that play a role in your life?
Well, it's sort of, it sort of changes, when I first started doing Scientology, like I said, I was like pretty good cokehead. And I really didn't like the way that I didn't like that I had a compulsion, put it that way. So one time I met this girl in Wichita, Kansas that I didn't even like because I don't know, I'm not even going to go into that story. But she said she was a Scientologist, and I said, can they help you get rid of a compulsion? I didn't really care that I did cocaine. I cared that I had the compulsion to do it.
No, I mean, let's talk about that for a second, because I know what you're saying. It's not like the cocaine per se, especially when you're young. It's not really hurting you. It's not really doing anything or whatever. But the fact that you would like to quit, but you can't quit, that part bothered you.
Yeah, the thing that bothered me, I'd snort so much coke that then my heart would start palpating, and then I'd be sitting there ready to go out on a date, and snorting coke, and then I'm feeling my pulse, and then I'd go like, I'm dying. Oh my God, I'm gonna die. And then I'd become religious, and I go, oh my God, don't let me die. If you don't let me die, then I won't do any more coke. I swear to God. Boom, then it would smooth out. And then I'd go out and I'd be like fine for 3 or 4 hours, and I'd snort too much coke, and I'd be like, oh my God. So I didn't understand why a person like me, who I made it through high school and college without ever doing a drug. And I didn't understand how a person like me could become this person that is afraid I'm going to die, and actually really afraid that I'm going to die, and actually really afraid that I'm losing myself. I felt like I guess the best way to describe it was, it feels like you're invisible as a being, you're there as a body, but you're invisible. And I hated the way I felt. So why did I just do it the next weekend that came out? It was mystifying to me. So that's what
year, how old are you at this point?
When I left, I was about 27 or 28.
And
I was way after I should have done drugs. I met a guy, I fell in love, he had some coke. And how about this? The first time I snorted coke, I was like this, and I'd never done any drugs. I was like, and I went, oh my God, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because when I say I hadn't done any other drugs, I smoked pot twice, but I didn't like that downtrodden feeling.
No, listen, I've told people I had a friend, I was too poor to do cocaine. Like when cocaine was, I mean it, when cocaine was popular, if you do the math on like cocaine and its popularity, kind of mid 80s, I lived in Los Angeles. I was making $8 an hour on a construction site. Coke was $110 a gram.
Exactly.
It's a lot cheaper now, and now I'm rich and Coke is free. So now would be a good time for me to dip my foot into the Coke pool. But then I was making $8 an hour with taxes being taken out. A gram of cocaine was a day and a half's work for me after taxes. And I remember people around me like doing it and stuff, but it's like, when you're getting $8 an hour for digging ditches, how could you get a Coke? Now, if I was a hot chick and I had a boyfriend, then maybe I could pull it off, but I was a dumb dude and I didn't have that. So that was the only way I would have been able to pull off. But I had a friend, he worked on Miami Vice, the TV show. He came back to LA in the 80s. He had really good Coke, and I tried it with him, and I was like, oh my God, this is what everyone's talking about. This is awesome. Like, I get it. I get why people get strung out on this shit. When you try the really good stuff, you go, oh, I've never felt better in my life. And I get why people like this.
I get why they like it, and I get why I liked it, but it is like it really is demonic, because that it really is that high of something that's this big, and then the next time it's this big, and then the next time it lasts this long, and then it lasts this long, and finally you're sitting there snorting coke all night long. You're not really high anymore. It just won't work anymore. And then you start getting paranoid. I'd be standing at the drapes looking for the cops, looking for, I don't know, what the hell. And I just became a lunatic. I hated myself. I was horrible.
How much would you do? I mean, like, what would you do on the weekend?
I really wasn't like a guy who did it every single day, but I would do it 3 days a week. And I would probably snort 2 or 3 grams a night. That's $200 or $300. I was working as an interior designer, and I was making good money, but I lived with someone who was Richie Rich.
Right.
So Richie Rich and he had already had his drug days. So, but I was the one that goes, well, let me try this. So,
how long did this go on?
I did coke for about 4 years.
Wow, that's a long time for what you're describing.
Yeah, but I really did go insane. When people say like, even then, I remember I was nuts. I said to my mom and dad, they're the straightest people in the world. And I said, oh, just so you know, do you guys want to, oh God, would you guys like to try some coke? And my dad and mom were like, what? And I go, cocaine, like, would you like to do it? And they go, we don't even know what you're talking about. I go, cocaine, it's a drug. Well, are drugs good? I go, well, this one would make you feel really good. This is something you might like. I can't even believe the things that I did or said. I'm just nuts.
So what, in this period, what are you doing? Are you working as an interior designer?
Yes.
You have a rich boyfriend who's
Right.
older and past his drug prime.
No, he was only a couple of years older, but look, like I said, I didn't do drugs in high school or college.
Right.
So when I didn't start doing drugs until I was 24, I'm a late bloomer in everything.
So now you feel like this thing has a grip on you.
It did.
And you don't like the idea of walking around with something that has sort of dominion over you, right?
I didn't. And also, when I say this, I really want people to understand, not people, you. I was insane. I knew I had made myself insane by doing this drug. I didn't start out a lunatic. Midway through and at the end, I was a lunatic. I couldn't, sometimes I would feel uncomfortable in my own skin. I couldn't be anywhere sometimes. I made myself nuts, seriously. I made myself insane. And so and because I knew the difference and because I knew that I was the one that did it, I thought if I'm the one that did it, I can undo it.
Mm-hmm. So where does Scientology then enter your life?
Well, that was the girl. Okay, so when I lived with this guy, Jake, who was a very cool guy, but he was Richie Rich, right? Anyway, so his friend, who I'd also sort of been to high school with, but I didn't really like her, came into town to visit him. And I was sort of being a smart ass. And I was like, so I hear you're a Scientologist. And she goes, yeah, I am. And, she's being real upbeat and I'm being a douche. And I said, so let me just ask you one question. Is that something that could help me get rid of the compulsion to do cocaine? And she said, yeah, it really is. And I said, well, why don't you send me a book? So she sent me a book. I liked what it said. It described me. It described my kind of crazy that I didn't want. It wasn't good crazy. So it described it. So I actually packed up, but listen to this. Oh my God. And I was on my way to LA to do Scientology. There wasn't Scientology in Kansas. And, to drive to LA takes 2 days, but it took me 26 days. Because I had to score cocaine everywhere across the whole fucking country. And if I had to backtrack 500 or 600 miles, it didn't matter.
So you just drove like the cocaine route from Wichita to Los Angeles.
Yeah, but the cocaine route looked a little bit like, oh, I'm in Denver getting coke. Oh yeah, but someone in Hayes, Kansas has coke. And then, oh, boom, boom, I'm almost in Tahoe. And the weirdest thing happened when I was in Tahoe. Oh my God. So it was snowing, literally. I was literally snow blind from snorting so much coke. And it was, you couldn't see. Everything was just a whiteout. So I pull into, I don't know, some fancy hotel. It's not in Reno. Was it Reno or Tahoe? Who knows?
Tahoe, probably.
I pull in and a person opens the door and they go, Kirstie Alley. Now, I wasn't an actress. No one knew who the hell I was. And I thought maybe the FBI was waiting for me or something, And this guy, I go, what? And he goes, Kirstie Alley, I went to junior high school with you.
Wow.
I got to get to LA because this is the kind of shit that's going to get me in a lot of trouble. But then I went to San Francisco and stayed for 2 weeks snorting coke, and then I went to LA and snorted coke.
Did you sort of know that? I've worked with Dr. Drew for many years, and I think when people know they're going into rehab or they know they're going into a place to quit doing what they're doing, people do a lot of eating before the diet starts. Monday morning, right? So was that kind of what you were doing? Like, I'm going to do as much coke as I can do before I get to LA and quit?
It was a little bit like that. I had taken on this new boyfriend, the rich boyfriend I broke up with before I left. And I'd taken on this new boyfriend who liked to do heroin. And I didn't even know anything. I'd never seen heroin. I didn't know anything about heroin. I never did heroin. But, I remember being at Manhattan Beach and I had snorted coke and then he was chasing the dragon and I'm like, what is this? I really didn't know what he was doing. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. I'm in love with you. And then I said, look, I'm going to go do some Scientology. you go to Hawaii and get some heroin. And then as soon as I'm done with my Scientology, then we'll meet up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And then it came to when I thawed out, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we met up, and I was like, oh my God, what, when have you ever had that moment when you're out with someone, or maybe it happens to people when they're drunk and then they wake up and they're like, oh my God, it was that moment.
You couldn't believe you're with him. I'm laughing to myself because I'm thinking about someone leaving Wichita, Kansas to come to LA to stop doing coke in the 80s. Like, the whole story is the little girl grows up in Wichita, Kansas, comes to LA and starts doing coke. Not comes to LA to stop doing coke from Wichita. But so what year is this approximately?
This is 1979.
Oh, we haven't even got to the 80s yet.
No, we haven't gotten to the 80s, because in the 80s, I didn't do any drugs. It was sort of people will have asked me about Scientology before, my own personal story. But honestly, when I did Scientology for 2 weeks, and I never wanted to do a drug again. Really? I know that's not like everybody in the universe does that, but literally you could have put a mountain of cocaine in front of me and I would have fire hosed it down. I had zero interest. I went back to being exactly like I was before I ever tried a drug. I always thought drugs were stupid. Why would you do them? I don't want to screw myself up and stuff. So that was a pretty major thing in my life. And I didn't go to LA to be an actor, but after I thawed out, I thought, it sort of rehabilitated my goals that had long been buried. And so then I thought, I'd like to try being an actress. I mean, why not? I can't do anything else except decorate.
What was the protocol? Like, did you just walk into the Celebrity Center over there on Franklin, I guess? Or yeah.
No, I didn't go into Celebrity Center. There's things in Scientology called it's a field group. So it's like a private, let's say a private delivery of Scientology services.
And what?
So I went there because that's where Anne, the girl that came to Wichita that knew my boyfriend, told me to go. So I went there.
What is the protocol today? Like, is it something you participate in daily?
No, I don't participate in it daily, but now it's sort of based, it's an example would be like, if you want to do a course, let's say there's something that you feel needs to change in you and you want to change that thing. And then, let's say you're a bad communicator. There's a course on communication. So you go in and do a course on communication. Scientology always felt like to me like college meets religion. So and the religion of it is just really getting you to go back to being some kind of analytical thinker instead of a reactive machine or whatever you become when you, not just with drugs, but with other drugs is a good example though, because that's an obvious one,
Sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
Let's say someone's had a loss, they've lost someone they loved, and they've tried to get over that, and they're just stuck there. That's something Scientology could help.
Did you go to events and things where you see a Tom Cruise or John Travolta or any of those types there?
Of course. If they happen to be there, it's not like, I know people go like, oh, so-and-so, don't you? I go, no, who is that? Well, they're a Scientologist. I go, there's millions of Scientologists. I know John and Tom like John and Tom. I worked with John before I was a Scientologist. I actually met Tom through Mimi Rogers, his first wife,
right,
who was my roommate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In LA, obviously.
In LA.
Where'd you guys live in LA?
We lived in Studio City.
Oh, really? Well, I'm from North Hollywood. So where in Studio City did you guys live?
We lived on the corner, almost like Sepulveda and was it Hazeltine or something? There's these apartments. There's sort of
kind of your borderline Van Nuys, Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, but you don't say that.
Yeah, you don't say it. You say Studio City. That's right. My mom's house, her neighborhood got so shitty that they changed it from North Hollywood to Valley Village because North Hollywood had a little stink of failure on the name. So you get in you get into acting and you're good at it. I mean, you're a really strong comedic actress. I mean, Emmys and Golden Globes. Like, for someone who didn't really do it in high school or college, you had a real knack for it.
Well, I like I said, I'm not even kidding when I say I really don't know how to do anything else. I know how to do interior design, and I think that I learned how to act. Let's say that. Did
you study? Did you treat it like a craft? Did you? No. It's just in you.
Look, I'll tell you when I feel really humiliated, because, I'll watch the Actors Studio, and I hear actors talking, and they've worked at their craft, and they call it their craft, and I have nothing in common with them. And it makes me feel like if I was ever going to be on the Actors Studio, which I think I was invited to be, but I don't know what I was doing other than that, I feel like I would be a total disappointment, because I like acting just because I like it. I think it's super fun, and I think it's interesting, and it makes me it makes my life happy, especially when I do comedy. You probably know that I live a very happy life. All the years of Cheers, anytime I'm doing comedy, I'm not one of those people that, you've met a lot of comedians. I'm sure that they're very serious, and they're depressed, and they're dark, and they're this. That isn't me.
It's true that comedians want to talk about the process a lot. And I'm like, it'd just be funny, or think of something funny and write it down and then say it on stage. It doesn't, right. There's not, they overcomplicate it with the process. It's a little, I don't know. It's a little blowhardy. I'm with you.
Pretentious.
It's a little pretentious.
I don't want to be around actors talking about their fucking craft and how they came about it, and how they have the right to do that, and they could come to about it in their own mind. When I'm around people, I don't ever want to hear them talk about how great they are, how wonderful they are in their craft, who loves them, who they got. I got a letter the other day from so-and-so saying they just love my show, and I don't like that.
How about entering Cheers? Like, Cheers had been on for a number of seasons, was five seasons, was a huge hit. I mean, if it wasn't the number one sitcom on TV, it was top 3 every week in and week out. You're going to take over. Was it Shelley Long? Who was that?
Yeah.
Shelley Long is the show is such a big hit that Shelley Long is going to go off and start doing features, I guess. And replacing her on that sitcom at that time is like it's like starting for the Yankees at shortstop, right? I mean, how many actresses would love to have that role that's already been created? I mean, not your role wasn't created, but I mean, a sitcom that's already a bona fide winner in the ratings and a juggernaut. How old were you when you walked onto that set?
Oh my God. When did I walk on this set? 1987, I walked onto this set. How old am I? I didn't start acting until I was 30 or 31 or something like that. 31. So I think I was born in 51, 87. Does that make me 36?
Yeah.
I think it was 36 when I did that.
And then how were you pinching yourself, or did you just kind of take it in?
No, I look, sometimes my life is ignorance is bliss, because I was off doing a movie with Tom Berenger and Sidney Poitier. So I'm like, I am so hot. I'm in this movie with Sidney Poitier, who's like and Tom Berenger just coming off of Platoon. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm everything. So when they called to ask me, the casting director, Jeff, and Jimmy Burrows, I guess, had seen me. Had seen me do Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which isn't a comedy. So when they say, "Oh, we saw you do that, so we want you in our comedy," it's sort of, like, what was I doing in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof? Anyway, so they called me and wanted me to come in and meet Ted and go to lunch and do that. And I'd never seen Cheers, and I tuned in, and I thought he looked like Eddie Munster. And also, I didn't know much about sitcoms, so I was like, yeah, okay. But I had only done drama in movies, so I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this for a year and show people that maybe I could be funny, and then I'll go do funny movies. So that was my plan. I wasn't really scared because I didn't really know the magnitude of what I was getting into. You know, if you think like, wow, I'm over here with Sidney Poitier and you want me to go to TV, well, come on, you know?
Yeah.
So,
No, I get it. I've kind of been there a little bit myself, where you're just sort of showing up and doing the work and going home and not really sucking it all in or drinking it all in. Or maybe it's a way to prevent yourself from being overwhelmed. Maybe it's a like self-preservation sort of thing.
Take it that, you know, I had good jobs over here doing movies. So if I didn't get this, it wouldn't be that I wouldn't be disappointed, but I still had the good job over here doing movies, you know? So I don't know. I don't, you know, I did a mini series and I got to spend all day with Jimmy Stewart, and he sort of wrapped it up for how I feel too. Every time I walk off a set, I think I'm a loser. And every time I get hired, I think I'm a scam artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's always like, what do they see? What? I don't even get it. I don't even get why they want me to be in this movie. And I'm a little bit like that. So we really hit it off because I understood. And he had monkeys. He had a lot of monkeys, and they'd come in his bedroom with he and his wife at night. So
Jimmy Stewart owned monkeys?
Yeah.
Did not know
and I
that.
have lemurs. So I was talking about my lemurs. He was talking about his monkeys. We really hit it off. We're both obviously some kind of freaks about, you know, every time I do, I agree with him. Every time I walk off a set, I go, I'm never going to work again.
What's your relationship with Hollywood these days?
I mean, I go in and out. I'll go in and out and work, you know. I think the last time I went in and worked on a series or something was Scream Queens. And then the last movie I did was in October, but that was in Atlanta. So I love Hollywood. I love acting. I love the whole deal. I just don't take it as seriously as I think I should. And I think that's probably gotten me into situations where maybe I'm not taking or doing the best work in the world. You know, you mentioned Tom Cruise. Tom is a friend of mine. Tom, when he's going to do a movie, months and months, he will work on it. You know, like that one movie, the one last Mission Impossible, where he's being swirled around in all that water and that crazy stuff, you know, he was practicing to hold his breath, I think up to 6 minutes. Now, so every day, day and night, he's in that pool working with the world's best free divers, to learn to hold his breath 6 minutes so he can do that scene with no cut.
Right.
Now, that describes Tom. I am like, I don't give a fuck. It's a movie. Do cuts. Who gives a shit? Put a body double in there. Let them get all churned up, you know? So I'm not saying, I don't feel like I'm as credible in that craft as I probably should be. How about you?
You know, I toggle kind of back and forth. Like there's a part of me that thinks, don't you want to put your best foot forward like sort of all the time? You know, like you can go do a stand-up show somewhere and you can really prepare to do that stand-up show, or you can shoot a stand-up special and you can really work it. And then there's another part that kind of goes, well, if you're taking this creative thing and you're kind of turning it into boot camp in a business, and you're back in the 9th grade and you want to get an A on your oral report, then are you kind of defeating the purpose? And, you know, I think of sports. I think about the guys who had the Hall of Fame careers because they worked so hard during the off season. And then I thought about the guys that wanted to party during the off season and not treat it like it was their entire life. And then sort of who's the joke on? Like I was watching the movie Rush the other day, the Ron Howard movie about Niki Lauda, the F1 racer, and James Hunt. And James Hunt was the freewheeling blonde Playboy guy. And he was like, Nikki, the sum of life isn't to keep working for next year. It's to have fun. You know, like I just won the championship. I want to party. I want to get laid. I want to travel, you know? And I think the answer is they're both right. You know, Nikki Lotta and Tom Cruise are both right. And on one side of the aisle, and you and James Hunt are right on the other side of the aisle too. And so I think then I balance. I think it's about balance. I think it's about saying I don't have to constantly drill and work and rehearse, because all it does, what happens is you do a project or there's a race season or a football season or whatever it is, and you're either in the season or you're practicing for the next season, and then you blink your eyes and you spent your whole life basically just rehearsing or playing. But or practicing or playing, I would say, you know, you treat it like a diet. It's like you try to have a general nutrition and you try to get some exercise, but have your cheat days.
Well, that's never been successful for me, as we know.
Well, how is that going for you? Because I know famously that was a big deal for you, the weight, the Weight Watchers, and all that stuff.
Look, if I would say, like, how would I like to live my life? I would like to be the best I can be and the happiest I can be with the littlest effort.
Right.
So my whole life, I stayed skinny and fit without doing very much, you know, and that's the way I liked it. And then when I turned I think I was about 53, the fucking party was over, because I've always eaten a lot of food. If I wanted spaghetti, I wasn't having a cup of spaghetti, do you know?
Right.
5 cups of spaghetti, and I could do it till I was 53. So I got a free ride till I was 53. Then it became like, oh my God, this is, I don't know. You know, then it was foreign to me in a way, and I had to work at it. And it's not like, I'm not trying to portray myself as someone who doesn't work hard.
Mm-hmm. We sound like it.
I sort of would rather not, though, if I don't have to, you know. Like you said, I won some awards, and I did sort of put my nose to the grindstone and work harder. Or if it was with a drama, yeah, I'm in there. I'm learning my lines better. But I'm not off, you know, I'm not off researching my character, you know, for 6 months before I do it. And then when I see certain people who do that and they turn in this insanely brilliant performance, then I'm like, I need to go off and research my characters.
Well, yeah. So can I circling back to food for a second? Because all
right.
I feel you. I feel you. What ends up, I'll speak personally.
Okay.
What ends up happening is your metabolism is good enough to take care of not getting fat. So you just kind of eat what you want, you do what you want, that's it. Then at a certain point, you wake up and you realize, if you just keep eating and doing what you were doing, you will start getting fat. So then you say, all right, I got to put a little effort in now. I got to work out a little bit harder. I got to do this. I got to do that. And you start doing it and you realize, I have to do that just to stay even now. It's not like I'm going to get in shape or I'm going to cut a bunch of weight. No, I have to work out just to not get fat. It's not like, it's not like you look great at the beach. And then you start thinking about food a lot, because now you're starting to like count calories and calories in and calories out. And now you find yourself thinking about food all day. And anytime you start thinking about something all day, it doesn't really work. The best way, when I was young, I'd just leave the house and I'd just be gone all day and wouldn't think about food, and I'd just eat when I get home. Now, like, I'm at home and I'm always thinking, like, okay, don't eat this, eat that. Thinking that it's the same with masturbation. Like, you go, don't masturbate. It's like, pow, it's on right now as we speak. No, but you know what I'm saying? You can't sit around and not think about.
No, that's why our hands are in our laps.
That's right. What I'm saying is if you're sitting around and think about not smoking, not masturbating, not eating, all it does is lead to not doing cocaine. It's like you end up just doing it. more.
Right, because you feel like, I don't know about you and y'all and everyone else, but this is how I feel. Like I quit smoking now for 3 years, but I've also quit smoking for 8 years before, or 7 years before, or whatever. So I'll hit these points where, let's say I'm with my friends from Italy and they're all smoking and they never fucking die from cigarettes apparently, and they never gain weight and they never anything.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I want to smoke too, and I want to eat what you're eating, and I want to do what you're doing. It's this bratty kind of, it's being a brat. It's like, I want to have that, and I don't want that effect that it causes. And someone will say to me, if you just carry a big bottle of water around with you all the time, and when you feel like you're hungry, you just drink one of those bottles of water. That's every girl in LA, basically. Right. Why don't you just have that lemon bar right there? Just cut it in half and then you can have it. But there's this like thing that will be like, I don't want to have the lemon bar. I want the same kind of lemon bar that I had when I grew up. I want 5 lemon bars and still be skinny and hot.
Yeah. I know.
Isn't it this urge to have, and some people say like, well, that's really not true. When you get older, your metabolism really doesn't change that much. So what did happen to me? So I'm walking along doing the same, eating everything and doing everything and blah, blah, blah. And then I'm 53. And I guess I'm lucky that I made it that far too.
Well, it's kind of
I don't want to die fat because I don't want people to like have to carry me. Like my bedroom in my house in Wichita's on the 3rd floor. And when I go to bed, I go, God, please don't let me die, because I really don't want to have stories about me carrying me down from the 3rd floor and being dead and fat.
I'm laughing. Sorry, but yeah, no, I love that everyone has horrible thoughts before they go to bed. I love that. And here's an interesting thought. But you tell me what you think. Okay. There are people that don't have your metabolism and they don't have your genes. I've met women this way. I've met men this way. I've met women and men that have fantastic genes and metabolisms and everything. And then there are others that are constantly working, constantly having to fight that fight. And that fight starts, when they're in high school. You know what I mean? And sometimes when people are blessed with the metabolism and the genes, like you, and I know a few people that are this way, at some point when they get older and it doesn't kick in, and now that it's starting to fade a little, they didn't have the discipline that the people in high school that were constantly fighting it every day had, or the self-control. You know what I'm saying? Like they just, it's sort of the high school captain of the football team, that jock guy, never really got the discipline and the focus that the other guy who was kind of the overachiever got, who was lucky just to make the team. And then when it starts to hit, they're not really armed with that discipline, for lack of a better term.
I do agree. It's like, and like people will say to me, well, have you ever been anorexic? No. I'm like, have you ever been bulimic? No. I mean, I used to wish, like, why can't I tried to be bulimic. I stuck my fingers down my throat. I hate throwing up more than anything in the world. That didn't work. I don't think I've ever missed a meal in my life. But it's like you say, it feels like this betrayal. That's why it's a bratty viewpoint, because you had it really good. You maybe didn't realize why you had it so good for so long. Like I said, my dad's 96. He looks like a movie star. He's decided he doesn't even want to walk around, but he still could walk around, he's still all there. He has 0 dementia.
Wow.
Why do some people, he was fit his whole life. He has a beautiful body. He was like a cross between Robert Mitchum and Rory Calhoun, just naturally, So, and I do know what you mean, because I went to high school with girls who, oh my God, they're counting every calorie and they're drinking water. LA is I know I keep bringing up the water, but I mean, my God, in Los Angeles, if you don't live in Los Angeles, you don't realize that every skinny woman has a fucking gallon of water with her 24/7.
It's probably why there's always a drought out here. All the skinny bitches just sucking up all the water, because no, it's true. They'll go, how much do you weigh? I'm like 200 pounds. All right, convert that into ounces. That's 2 million ounces. Now drink half of that in ounces. Take your weight, convert it to ounces, then cut it in half. That's how many ounces you should drink with every meal. It's like 7,000 ounces with every meal. That's right. That's what you should be drinking. I'm like,
and I can't do, when I was little, I took dance. Like I was little, I took acrobat. And then when, I messed around being a ballerina, which I was, of course, a dilettante ballerina.
I knew you could dance.
No, I couldn't dance. I wanted to be a ballerina without having to do any work to, training. But the ballet teacher would say, do not ever drink water. If you can get through the day without drinking, this used to be the philosophy for ballet.
It's crazy. If you hang around long enough, you'll see it all. So that when I was young and I played Pop Warner football in the San Fernando Valley, like, don't drink water, you'll cramp up. We'd be running wind sprints, 9-year-olds sweating through our jerseys and be screaming, don't drink water, don't drink water. Now, drink all the water you can.
Which is it? It's the same way with dancers. It's like, don't drink any water, smoke a million cigarettes. Are you eating? What the fuck are you doing eating? Stop eating. So now it's like, now how much water am I supposed to drink? And then I will go, you know what? I'm going to be temperate. I'm just going to be temperate. How much water sounds normal to me? Well, I think I'll have 8 fluid ounces of water, 8 glasses a day, because that's what I've been raised, to believe is right. But that isn't what the skinny girls do. I guarantee you.
Well, I want to talk. I know you lost your mother fairly early. 1981 car accident. I want to get into that. I got many more things to get into with you, but first let me hit Geico here. Right now, Geico is offering an extra 15% off on credit on car, motorcycle, and RV policies. That's 15% on top of the money Geico could already be saving you if you were going with Geico. Never been a better time to switch to Geico and save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. So visit geico.com and learn more at geico.com and save that 15%. By the way, Kirstie's going to have a podcast coming soon, and should we direct people to your Twitter to keep an eye out for that?
Yeah, I'm only really on Twitter, but yes, that's a good idea.
Kirstie Alley is where you go on Twitter, and then she'll tell you when her podcast is coming out in September, I think. Yeah, Mike August, that is, said you had a lot of thoughts about a lot of stuff.
I have too many thoughts about too many. I've become like this, like raging radical, like some kind of angry beast, I would say.
It's weird. When I was a kid, I felt like everyone mellowed out when they got older, but it doesn't appear to be happening. But I do notice that the men are mellowing out and the women seem to be getting crazier as the years wear on. And I think with men, it's the testosterone thing. Like when they're 25, they're all up into everything. They want to fuck and fight every night and everything. And then they get you see these guys at your high school reunion and they're so mellow once the male pattern baldness kicks in, they put on a couple of pounds and they just kind of mellow right out.
Women they're full of rage because you fucked us for so many years and we fucking hated it that we're like, God. Anyway, so I'm not really raging. I feel like a lot of things that I felt aren't following suit with what I've known, if you're talking about the political stuff that I was always a Democrat, but what I see now has nothing to do with being a Democrat. And so it's flipped my mind. I don't know what's happening. And I am trying to formulate thoughts and, and really put myself to the test. Am I a racist? Am I a Nazi? Am I this? Did I do this? I know the answer to those questions and they're no, but you have to admit, like, it's sort of freaky now what's going on. So yeah, I have become more outspoken about things that I wasn't ever really outspoken about.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting time because I've always been a Democrat as well, but the Democratic Party has gone so hard left that I just disagree with most all the stuff they're now talking about. And I've always just kind of cherry picked stuff. Like I like school choice. I think pot should be legal, pro-gay marriage. I like a border that we have control of. I'm into lowering the taxes and lowering the regulation in business, going out there and getting a good economy. Like, I don't know. I know you have to find a slot. You have to go, well, that's a Republican thought, and then that's a Democratic thought, and then that's a Republican thought. I don't know why you need to do that. My feeling is you can be pro-gay marriage, Democrat, and pro-school choice, Republican. Like, why wouldn't everyone just have both those thoughts?
I don't know, because I feel like thoughts and saying things have now become dangerous. Here's the thing I really don't like. I don't like that I can't disagree. I don't like that if I am being, it's like being held up at gunpoint. Do you agree with this? If you don't agree with that, you're a fucking Nazi. If you don't agree with that, you're a bigot. If you don't agree with that, that isn't true. So it's like this spin that's being put on everything. And I don't want to agree with everything that everybody thinks is fine. That sounds like a big generalized thing. I don't want to say I like socialism. I don't want to say, yeah, I'm fine. I'll give you an example. I hope this is taken the right way. I feel like if someone's 22 or 23 and they decide that they're a man and they want to be a woman and they want to have operations to cut off their genitalia, I feel like, do I agree that that's a good thing? No, but they're 24, they can do what they want. But when I look at kids who say, they're 4 or 5 years old and they're wearing high heels and want dresses, I want to be a girl, I want to be a girl. This idea that we must listen to our 5-year-olds who want to talk about that, and who then start sort of going in cahoots with grooming them to cut off their genitalia when they're like, some of these guys are like 16, 17. How the hell? I mean, I guess because of the age that I've lived, the amount of years I've lived, all your decisions when you're 4 or 12 are not necessarily your primo decisions to take you through your life. Yeah. So if I say to someone, no, I am against people having sex change operations until they're well into their adulthood. Well, then you are this or you are that. No, I never felt like it used to be that way. And maybe that's what you say when you're old. It didn't used to be that way. But I felt like I could disagree without being called something and canceled. This whole crazy cancel shit. I don't think you take people's livelihoods and people's reputations and just, even if you disagree with them. So this is where it's gotten very complex with me. I'm like you. I say, I believe in same-sex marriage. Good. Same-sex marriage. Good. Blah, 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 blah. Good. Now we have these other things going on that are equally, if not more important right now. We have China doing whatever China is doing right now. I think they're a huge threat. But we're going to talk about these other things that don't cover all the bases, I guess.
Yeah. No, we're going to talk about
what it falls under for me is human rights. Those are your human rights to do what you want. But I don't have to go, yes, bravo, you're doing this. Why do I have to fucking do that?
I don't know, but if a larger group of us say what you just said, then no one would have to do it. Most of the people are just scared for their jobs, quite honestly. Just a
I don't have a job.
Yeah, well, that's why we get to say what we want. We don't have jobs. But I mean, the woke fucking mob is trying to pull the McCarthyism on everyone. They're hypocrites and they're really bad people. This kind of smear campaign where you're not allowed to give your opinion. And also it's the media, to be fair, because I know really decent people, and I see what the media tries to do to them. And they're not trying to just fact check them. They're trying to take statements they made and then turn them volitionally, intentionally into a bad human. Not a human you disagree with, a bad human. And I realize I realize that it works on a large portion of our society, and it poisons them. And it's their fault for consuming everything the media gives them, but it's the media's fault as well. I'll give you a perfect example. One of the guys that everyone on the left hates is Dennis Prager because he's Jewish, he's conservative, he's a talk show host, and he's a very religious man with a lot of very conservative thoughts. I happen to get along with Dennis very well, and we're very good friends. We don't have much in common in terms of religion or Judaism or anything like that, but I know him as a very warm and gracious guy, gregarious, very kind to my kids, just a fun guy to hang around with, loves to laugh, and a deep thinker who's a very decent person and very much into America, very loves this country, and is a thoughtful guy. Right. He will say things, and some of the things he'll say would be, for instance, if you're married to a man and that man is a good man and he's been with you for a long time and he's a good husband and he's a good father, if in fact you're not in the mood to have sex with him on any given night, go ahead and do it anyway. Essentially, you got a good guy. He's a man. He's horny. And, if in fact he's a good guy. Now, if he's a bad guy, don't do it. But if he's good, you can occasionally, not if you have a throbbing headache, but if you just you're not really in the mood, but he's really in the mood, just go ahead. That's what he said. Well, then that comes out with Dennis Prager advocates for marital rape. That's what the headline says. Now, the people that write the article know what he's saying, but they just put it out there that way. And then all the dumb lemmings read the article. They don't read the article. They read the headline. Oh, this guy's, he's pro marital rape. And then somebody says to me, fuck that guy, Dennis Prager. And I go, no, Dennis Prager's a really good guy. And they go, oh, yeah? The guy who's for marital rape? You idiots just bought all this stuff. And the news is really, they're getting to the point now where there's a fiduciary duty that they're actually getting dangerous now because of the shit they're saying. They really are. They're going to get people killed.
Chaos merchants.
Right.
And the twisty turny, I hear people say, let's say something about Trump, like he's got a big mouth and he says everything and he just won't shut up. And I honestly feel like you have this over here, this extreme over here, and over here you have this extreme, which is so covert, so twisting the truth, like the story you're just telling. That isn't marital rape, that's marital begging.
Right.
So, and that's what I'm saying, the insanity of it. Someone said, in the Me Too movement, I get it. We needed a movement. So here we have the women that are raped. Here we have the women that were molested. Here we have a woman who says, this guy pushed me against a wall and kissed me. Well, what the fuck? Don't you want people to kiss you like that? And here's a perfect example. Mike, this is a great analogy that I've said to many people who have a different viewpoint than mine. My cousin lived at my house. She slept in one wing of the house. I had John Travolta as my guest. He was sleeping in another wing of the house. So in this wing of the house was my cousin and a chef we'd hired. So in the morning, she comes in and she's almost in tears. And she goes, oh my God. I go, what? She goes, Yuri came to my door and he had his underpants on. And he said, and he's from Hungary. And he goes, I would like to have sex with you.
The chef did.
And I said, okay. And then what happened? She goes, I said, no. And then I said, what happened? He left. I said, okay, what's your story? Well, I want you to fire him. I said, well, he came to your door. You standing in the doorway. He asked you to do this. You said, no, he left. I said, okay, now what if John came down the hall from the other direction to your door? She goes, well, of course I would have said, yes, it's John Travolta. And that was a very keen moment for me, because in the Me Too movement, you had women saying, this man, pushed me against the wall and kissed me, whatever man it was. And then you have this one who raped. It's like, they're not even in the same league.
No, so, I agree. But if you say that, now you're part of the problem, right?
What?
When you say that, which is basically what Matt Damon said, then you get wished out into the cornfield. You are part of the problem for saying things that are patently obvious like that. That's the scare.
I might be but a woman, and I can say this, that if I have some guy who's coming on to me and he decides to put his arms against the wall and kiss me, I can say, what are you doing? Fucking stop kissing me. Or I can say, yes, this is the best thing that ever happened in my life. Where have you been? Or I can say many things. But the idea that he does that, what are we supposed to really do at this point? I get all horrible things. I'm a woman. I get them. But what is a guy supposed to do? May I kiss you? I'd be like,
I used to bring this up when I used to host Loveline all the time. By the way, the end of that story, which was Travolta showing up at Yuri the Hungarian chef's door later that night in his underpants. So I don't know what happened after that, but I'm saying that's the button to the story. I always used to tell. So I used to put it this way when I was hosting Loveline, and when we're talking in the late 90s, I would say every office has a cool guy and every office has a creepy guy. And if the creepy guy, now I'm not saying he is creepy, he just looks that way, or you perceive him that way, you're not attracted to him, or whatever that is. If that guy says to the young receptionist, hey, is that a new dress? It's looking good on you, she'll get creeped out by it. If the cool guy comes in, the cool guy can come in and go, hey, it looks like somebody had themselves some fun over the weekend. Tell me all about it. And she'll just laugh and tell him all about it. It's the same thing, but you're not wanting it from one person and you do want it from the other person. And the inherent problem with all this is they don't know it. Each person doesn't know it. You know what I mean? Your perfect example, like Hungarian chef, your niece was not into this or your cousin was not into this. John Travolta, she was into it, but the act is the same act, or it would have been the same act.
It was the same thing, the same come on. And like I was waiting for her to say, and then the chef, came in anyway and got in my bed, and I'd be like, he's fired. I'm calling the police. He's fired, whatever the degree of it was. But I feel like we've lost the ability to differentiate. And that's the definition of insanity. You cannot differentiate what is what. It's how do you, I would be scared to death if I was a guy, to go on dates, because it's all about intention. I've been with some of the most handsome guys in the world, and they're the most skeevy ass fucking pervy motherfuckers that came down the pike. And they're good and they're charismatic and they can do all this shit, but that's what our job is, to be able to perceive and differentiate, and we're not always right, but I think we're right a lot. I think there's a lot of things women can do to not be involved in scary situations. I know that one of my successful actions when I came to Hollywood, I decided I'm never taking a meeting with any man, any place other than a legit office in an office building where there's a secretary and there's a this and a that. I think that decision really helped me out. I have friends who asked me to go take meetings with them at some guy's house who was going to be in Malibu, and they were also going to take a hot tub. And I'm like, now, okay, maybe it's because I'm from Kansas, but I'm like, hot tub, Malibu, midnight. I've been taught you're in trouble. That's the danger zone. So I think we have to take responsibility too and differentiate what would be a good move, is what I'm trying to say. If I could talk to young women who are pursuing acting, I would say, when you're called in for a meeting, make sure it's in a place where there are more people than one person, and it's during business hours. I think that would be good advice. But then someone might say to me, oh my God, now see, you are against women and you think it's the women's fault that these things happen. And I don't. But I just guess that I was taught to put myself into situations with a little forethought.
Hold the phone for 1 second. I'll hit Madison Reed Mister here. Working from home, getting a little gray around the beard, fellas, maybe a little gray around the temples. Madison Reed Mister. It's a great blending, natural color for your hair and your beard as well. You can go on their website, look at the before and after shots, and you can also look, find your hair color and match it up on the website as well. They don't have the shoe polish, Sharpie look. I've used this stuff a few times. It comes in a little kit. You have the little gloves. Put the gloves on. Put the gel in your hands, and you just rub it together, and you just sort of the color gel, and you just wipe it. Put your fingers through your hair with it on there. Then you do the same thing with the activator. Comes in a little Mylar pouch, and you let it sit there for 10 minutes, and then you rinse. It's simple. It's easy. It gets the gray out. My wife, Lynette, loves it as well. It works. It's natural. It's the stuff. Well, they've been doing it for women's hair for a long time. Now they're doing it for men's hair. It's Madison Reed Mister, right, Dawson?
Go to MadisonReedMister.com. That's MadisonReedMR.com and use code Carolla for 10% off plus free shipping on your first box. Again, that's code Carolla.
All right, so where were we? We were talking about Me Too. We're talking about, I think what you're talking about here is we're trying to kind of, whatever we're talking about racism, we're talking about Me Too, we're talking about Black Lives Matter, we're talking about all this stuff. It's like we're trying to legislate common sense. Like at some point, we just need some good, basic common sense that women need to know that, yes, the way our society is and the way young men are and the way we have crafted society, that if you're 25 and you're beautiful and you're at a party and guys are drinking, someone's going to come up to you and someone is going to do something that's going to fall under the heading of weird or pervy or out of line or whatever it is. And we could say, well, that's wrong. It should never happen. Right. Except for it probably is going to happen, some version of it. And you're going to have to, and I would hope this for my daughter, to have the skill set to kind of deal with it. And I think there's a version of that for just about every facet of our life, like almost everything you don't like, a bad teacher, a bad cop. If you're a young black man and a cop pulls you over and he's being rude, we're gonna have to figure out a way to deal with that so people don't get killed. That's what I'm saying. The notion of defund the cops or it should never happen or I don't want to live in a world where it happens. Sorry, the world is filled with human beings. Occasionally they're bad. Occasionally they're drunk. Occasionally they're whatever. And shit happens. Everyone is going to have to get the skills, sort of coping and negotiating, and deal with it. If the cop is out of line, you got to get his badge number, but comply, live to fight another day. Or if the guy at the party is skeevy and pervy, then go talk to the person who's throwing the party. But you're going to have these skills, these sort of coping skills, these negotiation skills, these life skills, because the notion of we're just going to smooth out the highway so there are no bumps and there are no hills and there are no gullies, that's never going to work. We'll make it as smooth as we can, but the goal can't be zero tolerance for everything. Everything's always going to exist. We're human beings.
I like that. I like the way you articulate that, because it's true, and we don't live in Candyland. You can't make people not say or do anything, and it's such an arbitrary of what might be it's walking on eggshells. It's such an arbitrary, what might be said to this person or this person. This person might go insane if you say this thing, and this person might not give a shit. I mean, I remember when we were doing Cheers, I mean, my God, we would all be in jail if we had the same rules to follow right now. I remember when our big game was, we all shared the same shower, not at the same time, but the big game was figure out a way to get in there and take pictures of, and that wasn't the internet, but get in there and take photos, whoever is in the shower naked. And so there were many locks put on the door. We really rigged it so no one could get in there. And then Woody went through the ceiling.
Woody Harrelson.
Yes. And then he unlocked the door, threw me the camera, and I took a picture of Ted. But now that would be sexual harassment, I guess. I think it was just funny and fun, and I still do. I feel like, can't we tell when someone's like if a guy says to you, look, if you don't give me whatever, then you're not going to have this job. That's another thing. That isn't okay. That is sexual harassment. And that is, basically blackmailing you. Or if someone puts their hands in you in a horrible way and is molesting you, that's a different thing. And if someone rapes you, that's a different thing. And each of these things should have a different consequence. But if you don't look at everything also from that point of view, and you look at men and women throughout history, they play games with each other. They flirt around. The things that you think are sexy and fun, and it's because of the intention behind it. The intention is good.
Well, context. I mean, without context, it's like I was talking about earlier with Dennis Prager. Do you think the super religious elderly Jewish man is advocating for raping your wife? Do you think that's what he's pushing that out there? That's his plan for the deeply devout Jewish scholar? Do you think that's what he's telling people to do? Have some context, people. Use your fucking head.
It's about sound bites. It's why I want to have a podcast. It's why I like listening to you. It's like when a person has a point of view, if you can hear them out, there's a lot more sane people than we think. But the news, everything has been turned into a sound. I used to think it was bad before the internet, but everything's been turned into a sound bite. It's interesting. I could have interviews that lasted 6, 8 hours. I'd have someone following me around all day long, wherever I was, doing all these interviews, and it's down to a paragraph and a soundbite and whatever they decided to say about me, Well, and I'm done with this. I want to podcast, and even if someone doesn't want to listen, they can turn me off, but I can at least say something more than a 2-second clever quip.
I always think about the court transcript, like you were talking about the set of Cheers and the shower and Ted and Woody and everyone else. Imagine if somebody wanted to just turn that into a court transcript and they read it out loud, and then they would lock them in, and then he'd climb over the top of the camera and blah, blah, blah. Like, the court transcript version of everything always sounds horrifying. It always sounds, and that's what we're doing with the news. We're doing the court transcript version of it. You could take any interaction you've had with friends or family members or lovers or whatever it is over the years, and you realize if you turn that into, and then he did this, and then she did that, and then he said to her, I'm going to kill you because I hate you, whatever. Now, you could have been laughing when you said that, but it's in the transcript now. You could turn everything into a horror show and a felony. You could make everyone to just be a felon. If you just took the hijinks that you guys played on each other in a very good-natured way on the set of Cheers and turned it into a court transcript, especially if someone was going for something, like if someone was trying to lock you up or get money or whatever from you, what would that look like? It would, of course, look horrible. And that's what everyone's doing on Twitter, and that's what everyone's doing on the internet. That everything gets put into a court transcript style thing and then pushed out there.
Right. And then there's nowhere. Now, this is my other pet peeve. I have about 5,000, but we can't do them all today. But my other pet peeve is that, and then if you're put out there to dry, hung out to dry, your comrades, your peers do not come to your rescue because they're afraid to rescue you. There have been several, if I have a friend who's a celebrity or a celebrity that I don't even know, and I know what their intention was, and I know that they're a good person, and I know what they were trying to do, I'll fucking defend them on Twitter. But believe me, who I've met? I've met Jonathan Knight from New Kids on the Block and Todd Cressley on Twitter because they actually jumped in and defended me when I was being attacked.
I want to hear that. I want to hear that story. Hold on, Kirstie.
Well. I don't know Jimmy very well.
Kirstie, let me just jump in here. Can you hang out with me and do some more of this?
I can if you can stand.
I can stand. I'm finding this interesting. I think I'm just going to call audible Maxipata. Let's just keep going with Kirstie here. Let me just shuffle the deck. First, a quick 15-second J.B. Weld. The J.B. Weld is a proud sponsor of the Adam Carolla Show. Epoxy adhesives for both DIYers and pros, trusted for over 50 years, available at jbweld.com and retailers everywhere. It is JB Weld. All right, Kirstie, can you hang for a second? We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and do lap 2.
Sure.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, well, we're going to keep going with Kirstie Alley here because I'm finding this conversation so stimulating. So thanks for staying with us, Kirstie.
Stimulating could be taken the wrong way.
Oh yeah, on point. I'd have so many questions for you, but let's talk about Cheers and that set and some of the stuff you guys did over there back in the day. Where'd you shoot that?
Paramount.
And how many seasons were you on it?
6.
So they did 5, and then you did 6. I mean,
yeah, they did 11 seasons.
11 seasons overall. So
I
how?
Yeah. Forever. If they kept doing the show forever, I would have kept doing it forever. It was the best. It was really a dream come true because I loved every single person on that cast and crew. There was just no bad egg. There was no animosity. We were all very different people, but we all, God, it was just the most fun I've ever had in my life.
Woody Harrelson was just kind of getting started back then, right? And he seemed like an unlikely star. Like if anyone watches Cheers and they see you see Woody Harrelson on Cheers, you wouldn't predict that guy would have such a huge theatrical career after that. His character was kind of, well, his name was Woody, and it was kind of a weird guy, and he didn't have that sort of matinee idol good looks or anything. Like you would have never predicted that he broke out of that and became a huge star, especially a leading man. Did you see that in him?
I saw it because when Woody would flirt with me, I was married, didn't stop Woody. Woody would flirt with me. He was so charismatic, that I could see that he could very easily be a leading man. And he was always breaking girls' hearts. What Woody would do is he would bring his dates over and spend the night at my house. You know what? I never asked Woody why he was doing that. But I guess because I had a big badass house and it was sort of cool and fun. I don't know why. And maybe Woody was living in an apartment. I don't know. But he'd bring his girlfriends over and then he would go to sleep, whatever, they'd do whatever. And then he'd go to sleep and then his girlfriends would sort of come up and sometimes knock on my door and then he'd broken their hearts. And so I could tell he was a leading man in real life because all the women love Woody Harrelson. So then when I started seeing, and he's so endearing on Cheers, he plays he's the philosophy of life on, he's the sort of the dim-witted Woody guy, but he's also the heart and the philosophy of the show. And that's how Woody is in real life. Oh my God, I'll tell you the best thing Woody ever did. Okay, so Woody and I used to play pranks, back, forth. I was filming a movie with John Travolta, and we were in Canada, and we were filming really late, and I hate night shooting. I'm bad at night. And so then this captain came, we were filming in an airport, and this captain came up to me and he said, my son is handicapped. He's severely retarded. He's been in a bad car accident. If you could come right after you're done filming, if you could just come say hi to him, it would mean the world to him because he just loves you on Cheers. And I said, okay, oh my God, this is so exciting. So we were filming, it's 2:00 in the morning. So I go up and here's this child in this wheelchair and he looks like he's about 14 or 15 and he's all bandaged and the cast is, the crew's standing around a little bit and I kneel down because he's in a wheelchair and I go, hi, it's really nice to meet you. And he goes, I love you. And I said, well, I love you too. And he goes, I know I love you. I said, I love you too. I'm so glad I get to meet you. And he put his arms on my shoulder and he goes, I love you. I love you. And I go, I love you too. And then he's got his arms around me and he goes, I love you. I love you. And I'm like, okay, I love you too. And I'm sort of looking around like, hey, he's like getting a little carried away here. And pretty soon he's like pulls me out of the wheelchair and he has me on the ground and he's like, I love you, I love you, I love you. And he's rolling around on top of me. And I'm going, you guys help. And the whole crew is now, it's like a Twilight Zone movie. The whole crew's surrounding me. It was Woody.
It was Woody in the wheelchair?
It was Woody. He'd come in, he'd bandaged himself all up. He was like humping me on the floor, going, I love you, I love you. And I'm like, oh, this is a handicapped boy. I can't do it. I can't make him stop because that would be wrong. And Woody had flown into Canada. He flew into Canada to do that prank.
Just for that.
Just for that.
Wow.
And oh my God, I was crying. He took it so far that I was literally crying and begging someone to help me.
Was the crew in on it?
Yes.
They must have been. Yeah, everyone was in on it, yeah.
Like, help me. He's going to hurt himself. I've just been told he's been in a car wreck. So I'm like, help me. Help. He's going to hurt himself. You guys, come on, you guys.
And he got a captain, like an airline captain, to come talk to you?
Yes. He wasn't even a real airline captain. He was some actor that was, I think, maybe he was like, a stand-in. I mean, not a stand-in. Maybe he was, we were shooting in an airport situation, so it seemed very real. But anyway, that was the story of that was every single day on Cheers for 6 years.
And he would bring his girlfriends to your house because you had a big house. Yes. And I guess have sex with them in some room. I mean, there was like a guest room.
There was a wing down this way, but a couple of times Woody knocked on my door. Now he'd been drinking, but he'd knock on my bedroom door. And remember, I'm married. I'm in there with my husband, and Woody would go like, do you want to come out here with me? And I go, no, Woody, I don't. And he'd go, come on, let's just have some fun. I go, Woody, God, get out. And he's so young, at the time. And he'd go, okay. Sometimes he would have a girl downstairs and he would still sort of do that. Flirt. We were all sort of flirty with each other. Yeah.
Anyway. Well, Ted's a pretty good looking dude.
Ted was good looking. Ted is a really good kisser.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had this scene, Ted and I are jacking around the whole show. Everybody's always jacking around on that show. We're never paying attention. It looks like we don't even know. It doesn't even look like we're actors at all, or that we're putting on a show at all. But then in the scenes where a couple of times I had to cast Ted, I was like, whoa, Ted is like a really good kisser. And I don't know about other actresses, but, if you're kissing really good kissers who are handsome, I hear actors go, well, there's a whole crew around, so you don't have any feelings for the person. Well, that's not really, if I'm with some ugly guy kissing him, then yes, I don't have any feelings for him. But I think it's very hard to be an actor for that reason. You're not usually going to a job like to the office and you make out, not that it doesn't happen, but that you go to your job and part of your job is to make out with the guys in your office.
Right. Yeah.
So actors, it's part of our job to make out with them. And he's a really good kisser.
Well, especially if you go on location somewhere. I mean, God, it happens all the time, but how could it not? Right.
I actually, I never cheated on my husband, but I will say that it was hard because here you are working every day. You're on the set for 14 hours, but you're making out with them, you're pretending like you love them. And then it's time to go home and you all go to dinner and you're all sitting with each other and laughing and everything's great. And you sort of start falling in love with them. It's how Elizabeth Taylor was married 87 times,
Your husband at the time was Parker Stevenson? Who is a pretty hot actor himself at that time, good looking, kind of doing a series. God, he had a series like he had Hardy Boys, but he also had a few other ones, right? I mean, he had.
Then he had Baywatch, and then he was in Models Inc., and then he directed a bunch of Models Inc. Yeah.
Yeah, his stuff was like a little more serious, a little more crime fighting, and that kind of stuff. But he was a pretty hot actor during that same time period, right?
Yeah, and he's a hot guy, but when you go on location and you're on location, it's just, I mean, imagine, I don't think people really, I think they can put themselves in the place, if you're going off and you're making out with Matthew McConaughey every day or something, you might have a crush.
Yeah, I don't think people fully understand how they would act or respond in the same sort of situations, which is to say, everyone always talks about, these Hollywood guys, they're always cheating, or the women are cheating, or whatever it is. Well, look, if you drive a truck, you're not going to get that much opportunity, for instance, I mean, I used to be on MTV every night. I understand what it's like to go into a bar in New York when my girlfriend's in LA and have two chicks walk up to me because I'm on the TV that's on in the bar at the time. So, and saying no thanks, but no thanks to that is a tougher thing to do than not. It's one thing to it's one thing to drive a truck and not go out whoring when you pull into Phoenix. Like, that's fine. It's another thing when they come to you and start talking to you. And right. I was talking to the late, great, God, let's see. Oh, I just blanked on his name, but I'll think of it. I'll think of his name in a second. From Three's Company. I'm just completely spacing on his name. John Ritter. And John was basically saying he was just in a book that was doing one of those tell-all books, and he was in the tell-all book. And, he was basically saying, I flew to New York. I was at the airport. There's like this great-looking chick at the airport. She wanted to know, if I wanted to share a cab with her back into Manhattan. I said, fine. We shared. The next thing you know, we're staying at the same hotel. She wants to know if I want to have a drink in the bar of the hotel. Like, yeah, next thing you know, he's in a book. But what I'm saying is I don't know many guys that wouldn't get caught up in that. I just don't.
But it's also hard. It's hard not to, because, like that incident, like say you're in that bar, that's hard, but that's one incident probably from one person. But it's like erosion. If you're doing a movie and you're on a set for, if you're gone on location for 3 months and this person is sort of eroding you. I'm really proud of myself. I was married for 14 years and I never cheated on my husband.
You must have had guys coming at you all day long. I mean,
I did, but I was so flirty. I mean, I think, when I say I didn't cheat on my husband, I'm proud of that. But what I did was even sort of worse. Because I would say to guys like, oh my God, if I wasn't married, I would be so into you. I would be so, I was like the master manipulator flirter. And when I look back on it, if my husband was doing what I was doing, I would not have liked it. And maybe he was. I mean, he was on sets too. But I do think that, it's like if you put yourself in a position, you work in a real estate office, okay? And you're married, but then there's a guy that comes to work in the real estate office and he's really hot looking. And I don't know, maybe looks like Patrick Swayze, and he's over there and he sits next to you every day. Maybe you're tempted a little bit. Maybe you have some temptation going on there every single day. But now what if part of your real estate job was every day he comes in and you're just holding, and we want, when you go show this house today, we want you two to go together and make out with each other all day.
Right.
So then, I mean, it's the weirdest business when you really look at it.
Yeah.
Acting, showbiz, like you're saying, it's very weird because they're not really, I don't, if you're approached by a lot of people, I don't really they don't know me, first of all. So it would be who they think I am, or
yeah,
who they think you are, but people do throw themselves at you. And it's easy for me when it's a one night kind of a thing. That's never been my deal. I've never really been promiscuous. That's never been my deal. But the erosion.
Yeah, they wear you down. Well, also, it's kind of interesting. I want to get back to that part where you kind of flirt hard with them because guys don't understand that. And I think there's a big chasm here between men and women, which is guys are very bottom line. Like, we want to have sex. Like, if a guy is talking about cheating or he's flirting with you or whatever, he essentially wants to have an orgasm. That's kind of the end game. Like, that's it. It's very mechanical. You can break it down a whole bunch of different ways, but guys are very mechanical. So a woman who would be saying to a guy, listen, if I wasn't married, I'd definitely be with you because I think you're that hot. A guy can't really process that Because for a guy, it's almost like it's like you're saying, I want to talk about eating a steak. And the guy's like, I want to eat a steak. And you go, yeah, I just kind of want to talk about it. And the guy's like, nobody wants to talk about eating a steak. You want to eat a fucking steak or you shut up, but you don't just want to talk about it. When they don't realize is women can just want to talk about eating a steak and never take a bite of a steak. And the guys can't process that.
Right. But being a dick tease, I think to women, I can't speak for all women. To me, being really flirtatious, and I know I'm being a dick tease when I'm doing it, that's the game. For me, the end game that you're talking about, the guy's end game. I mean, if I want that end game, I could have that end game, but it's not my game. My game is
right, but he doesn't know it. That's the problem. What's that?
This is so mean and horrible, and I'm going to say it. I used to want here's right now I'm sort of lonely, so I'm going to open this box up. I'm going to take this guy out. I'm going to go, yo, how about this? Oh, you're so handsome. You're so this, you're so that. Okay, you're boring. Boop, put him back in the box, get out another boy, like that. So that flirting it always made me feel like I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't immoral because I wasn't actually cheating. I wasn't actually finishing the game.
Right.
So it became fun to just flirt around a lot, but I can see your point of view. I don't think women do think like men.
That's the truth.
And that dance and that whole thing is probably more exciting or as exciting.
Well, here's a philosophical question.
Oh God.
What you were doing for you was cheating to some degree, sort of emotionally or whatever, spiritually or whatever, because you were getting something out of it. You know what I mean? Like maybe we should define cheating in a marriage as sort of you getting something out of it. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like a woman could get fully naked and have a man massage her naked body, but that's not cheating, right?
Well, okay.
No, I'm stick with me on this. We're going on a long journey here. That's not cheating because it's not cheating to her. You know what I mean? And it's not to society either. But if a guy goes into the champagne room and he gets a lap dance, even though his pants stay on, maybe his wife gets angry at that behavior, right? So it's kind of, it's not that technical because on one hand, you're nude and the guy's putting his hands all over you. On the other hand, you're wearing your jeans and the chick's giving you a lap dance, but it's more sexualized. But what you were doing is a woman's version of cheating or your version of cheating to some degree.
Totally agree.
You were sort of getting pleasure with other guys, but your version of it is you keep your panties on, right?
My version is I'm taking it as far as I can possibly take it without having intercourse or having other sexual activity. So I could say to someone, I've never cheated on my husband.
Right.
But I understand. I even sort of think it's worse because I think you can also get men to fall in love with you for real, and you're really fucking with them, sort of. It's sort of a creepy cheating too.
Well, so here's the philosophical question, which is, you in the eyes of society are not a cheater, but on the other hand, you're getting what you want away from your husband.
Yes, I'm a whore.
And no, I'm just saying you're being sort of satiated away from your husband. Your husband's not providing this thing. Now, obviously, your husband and men aren't interested in this version of cheating. They're not interested in the let's talk about it. They want to get to business. So then you could do this with multiple men over a course of years and not be a cheater. Your husband could sleep with some floozy out of town one time and he would be a cheater.
Yeah.
Even though you're both just kind of doing what you're wired to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but see that psyche, that even when you say that, and I'm not even with anyone right now, it's like when you say, and your husband could then sleep with someone, I just get like full of rage. I'm not, I would just, but they're not. I see what you're saying. Philosophically, it's sort of one is one and the other is the other. But that, I don't know. If you complete the whole act, I guess that's my definition of cheating. But what I was doing was equal, or I think even maybe worse, because I was sort of a serial flirter.
And I imagine
Ted Bundy of flirting.
a lot of those guys must have really been smitten with you and thought something may happen.
Well, and I would lead that. This didn't happen with many, 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 many guys, but I would lead them like, wow, if I wasn't, I don't know. And when you have those talks on sets, I mean, they're so bullshit. Here we are. And you know what? When anything gets into something heavy and philosophical and, like it was like when it goes back to like, how did I emote in this? I just want to throw up. I don't know why. Anyway, but if it gets too heavy and philosophical, I always feel like flirting was just fun. But it does have consequences because I don't think it's fair to make people think that you're falling in love with them. What did
you need? So
right. Why would you be, why be married was my thought. Like, why am I married if I'm going to do this?
What did you get out of it? I mean, was it being desired or the attention or what do you see? I said, like for guys, it doesn't.
I never did it with anyone that I wasn't like crazy attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I wanted to. I guess I wanted to have. That flirtation and that stuff feels fun and fresh and new, and that's probably why people cheat on each other. It's no different. You want that fresh, new thing and there's no responsibility. You don't know what the guy's bathroom habits are. You don't know what he's like if you get in a fight with him. You don't know anything really. It just feels like it's fresh and new. So I guess that newness feels sort of exciting or exhilarating or something. And also, I feel like if I think women, and God, I'll probably get lambasted for this but I do think women want to have that kind of love aspect and romance aspect. And I think men just want to like get down. So if you're flirting with someone, it feels like that romantic thing. It feels like the game, the interlude, it feels like it's like foreplay.
Yeah.
Men, it's like, fuck, shut the fuck up, just get your clothes off, So so that may be what the fulfillment of being able to be romantic in a way and flirtatious. Like, I mean, isn't that how every relationship starts? What I realized it was really interesting was I never ever slept with a guy. I've never slept with someone the first time if I hadn't been drinking. What does that tell you? That tells you I would have had no sex in my life unless there was alcohol.
and now, under California law, that would be rape. I mean, under the new definitions.
No, but it's true. Like I'll probably drink twice a year. I don't really have a thing for alcohol, but I remember like if I want to cut my inhibition down and make myself real brave and gutsy, I'd have a couple of drinks. And I have never slept with a man that I didn't, the first time I slept with him wasn't, I wouldn't say drunk, but had a few drinks.
When you've been married twice, right, in your career?
Uh-huh.
And you never thought about, because when you got divorced for the second time, you were certainly young enough to find love and get married a third time. Never. I
lived with someone for 3 years after I got a divorce.
Oh, do we know who that person is?
God help us. No, we don't. No, but if you listen to my podcast, I have a special episode on it. No. I jumped, let's see, what is it called? What's that saying? You jump from the fire to the frying pan?
Oh, I think you go from the frying pan into the fire.
You do? Either way, it's fucked up. Oh, Lord.
Well, maybe,
not a good one.
I always think about sort of the burden of being a really attractive woman is, like the people constantly kind of coming at you and getting into these relationships. You know, I mean, there's a version of life that is a much slower life. You know, you live in the same town, you're married to the same guy for 45 years. It's sort of you're not having all this temptation, these options, I guess, constantly like being thrown at you. Do you identify with this at all?
Part of you that got into this business too. I feel like there's a part of me that wanted to be an actor because I wanted, you know, the clothes, the men, the lights, the blue, you know, all the fanfare.
I want to, you were on an episode of Love Boat, right?
Yes.
I've been watching the shit out of Love Boat. Now, I watch Love Boat, and then Dr. Drew watches Love Boat, and then we gossip about the episode that we saw. But I'm trying to think, as I was looking through your IMDb, was it 1983? Now,
it probably was, because I hadn't been dating Parker very long, and Parker was asked to be on Love Boat. And we were at dinner with the producer, and the producer said, would you possibly be interested in doing Love Boat with him and playing I think I played his wife. And I said, oh yeah, I'll do that. And so that's how I got into that one.
Because that was pre-Cheers for you?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't do Cheers until later. We're looking at...
I started doing Cheers in 1987.
We're looking at a picture of you with some serious cleavage.
Nice rack. Can we say that anymore?
My God, Love Boat, man. They let it hang out in that show. And you're there with Tom Bosley. I think that's Tom Bosley from Charlie's Angels. Was it Tom Bosley? Yeah, from Charlie's Angels, right?
I think in the storyline, I was trying to make my husband jealous. I think that's why I had that dress on.
I want to know, I'm asking for Dr. Drew. I'm not even asking for myself, but I'm going to ask you, I can never figure out, like, where did you guys film that show? Did you ever get on the boat? I know it was all in front of a green screen, but I am so obsessed with Love Boat, and I'm especially obsessed with it because I'm looking at it through the lens of this was our society. I mean, on the subject we're talking about, on the Love Boat, Dr. Bricker was the physician who was on the Love Boat, and he openly hit on every chick that walked onto that boat, and those were storylines. I mean, that's how crazy our society was back then, that the physician on the boat would openly be sexually coming on to female passengers on the boat, and that was all. There was a laugh track played behind it, and he would get them back to his cabin and be banging them where he conducted his medical exams.
That's where the love part came in.
All right, let me hit Simply Safe here. Most home security companies trap you with high prices, tricky contracts, lousy customer support. There's only one that's a no-brainer. That is Simply Safe. There's two I's in there. Simply Safe. Everything you need to protect your home, an arsenal of sensors, cameras in every room. Windows and doors tailored specifically for your home. Professional monitoring day and night. Ready to send police, fire, medical professionals. Whatever you need. You set it up in under an hour. Just peel and stick. The batteries last up to 10 years. No technician required. Just go online, get it set up. They'll send it to your house. You get up and running in under an hour. No contracts, no pushy sales guys, or hidden fees or fine print. Starts at just $15 a month. U.S. News & World Report named it Best Overall Home Security 2020. Right, Dawson?
Head to simplysafe.com/Adam and get a free HD camera for our listeners. That's simplysafe.com/Adam to make sure they know that our show sent you.
All right, let's take a quick break and come back for our final segment with Kirstie Alley right after this.
All right, take it away.
So when we left off, we were talking Love Boat, recollections of you and Love Boat.
You asked a question, and the answer is we went to Acapulco on a ship.
You did?
Yep.
I had no idea.
I'm not sure. I'm not so sure they do that with every episode, but we went to Acapulco, and then we also shot on the Queen Mary, because my husband thought I was an idiot, which I sort of was. He wasn't. We were just dating at the time, but he asked me about the Queen. He said, we're going to go on the Queen Mary, and I said, well, are we taking it out?
Right.
I didn't know it was in dry dock.
Yeah, we're going to fly the Spruce Goose over to the Queen Mary, and then we're going to take it out water skiing.
Take her out, Captain.
So you guys did go to Acapulco on a cruise.
We did.
And filmed on the cruise.
We did. That's why we both thought it would be fun, because it was a real deal.
Wow, this is going to blow Dr. Drew's mind. And
does he think they're all on stage, sound stage?
You know, I think he does, but he's very cynical. You know, he's a clinician. He's always looking for that angle. Whereas I'm a lover and a dreamer. I want to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I became a big fan of his when he opened his mouth about hydroxychloroquine. And
Dr. Drew?
Yeah. I was like, thank you.
Well, it's so crazy that everything has to become politicized. It's so insane that a doctor can't give his opinion on a medication. That somehow it was such a telling thing to me that drug became an issue. That's when it was super clear to me that everything is political now, because that drug, as Drew said to me many times, he's prescribed it to tens of thousands of patients, and he says there's more side effects from aspirin and Tylenol.
Exactly.
And so the notion, whether it's effective or not, that's to be debated. But the notion that it's dangerous, that's insane when millions of people are on it throughout the world and who have been on it for 65 years. That's what was confusing to me. It's one thing to argue and say it's not effective. Fine, make your argument, say it's not effective. To go on TV every night and explain how dangerous it is. I mean, I would call Drew. I'd watch CNN, and they'd say, like, this is dangerous. They have a physician. I called him. They have a physician on there go, there's cardiac conditions, and to take this drug and not be hooked up to an EKG machine, that's irresponsible. That's dangerous. I would literally pause it and just call Dr. Drew and go, I'm playing you this TV clip so you can hear this person, this physician saying you can't take this harmless medication unless you're hooked up to a heart monitoring machine. And he would just laugh his ass off. And by the way, who are all these people that are on TV all the experts, both sides, explaining what's going to happen? It's insane, right?
It's insane to me also because there's thousands of doctors who actually, I guess they call themselves the frontline doctors, who are actually in the hospitals and in the practices, and they're giving them the hydroxychloroquine and the Z-Pak and what's the other one that you go, zinc, and they swear by it. So if it's not harmful, I mean, watch TV and see, here's a drug and here's the 57 side effects that take the longest to tell you about the drug. There's this rolling and rolling and rolling. And then you have this drug that I think the only time it can be dangerous to your heart, from what I've heard from doctors I've talked to, is if you take it for a long duration in large doses. So when these guys are saying that it can help with COVID, in the beginning, it's 200 milligrams. It's not large dose. It's not for a long extended period of time. And wouldn't you try it? I would try it.
Oh, for
I'm going to
sure.
drive the country in the next few days. And believe me, I'm stopping in a place where I know they will let me have that drug.
Where are you going?
I am driving, here's my quest. I am driving around the country, and I'm going to find a farm that I want.
And you're just going to do cocaine the entire time, or?
Oh my God, those were the days.
Are you? So so you would like some peace and some quiet and some nature?
No, it sounds like I would, but I have 15 lemurs. I have three cats. I've got birds. I've got lemurs. My animals are loud.
What's the definition of a lemur? I mean, what?
Did you watch Madagascar, the movie?
Probably.
Okay,
I got the
striped tails.
Yeah, I got the general. I'm picturing it in my head. Why 15? Oh, why not?
Because I had lemurs for years and years, and they passed away of old age. And then I was in Florida, and I don't know, it was when there were newspapers. I was looking at the newspapers, and it said baby lemurs. And I went, oh my God, none of these lemurs are captured in Madagascar, by the way. They're all in captivity. But I said, I was going to go look at them. And we all know that's a lie. And my kids were like, right, you're just going to go look at them. I go, no, I'm just going to look. I want to see some baby lemurs. Boom, I come home with 4 baby lemurs, 1 male and 3 females that aren't related. And then they all had like,
yeah, we're looking at them.
Like,
yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, lemurs regularly have twins. So all of the women had twins. Jimmy is the stud. He's like impregnates them all. And so it just started. And then we gave Jimmy a vasectomy. And then 2 years ago, the vasectomy wore off and he had 2 more kids.
You can give a lemur vasectomy, huh?
I didn't want to castrate him. I don't know.
Well, so you want to find some land. You want to have a farm. Where are we thinking?
I'm looking in different places. I'm looking in Kansas, Ohio, Maine, and Ocala.
How you set for money?
I'm set for money well enough that I can buy a farm.
Is it? Were you
I'm
good?
Doing okay.
Were you good with your money throughout your career?
I never made money before I stopped doing cocaine, because it would have been all at my nose. But I've only invested in the worst kind. It's a good one in one way because you're not snorting it away, but I've only invested in real estate. So I have a lot of places, but they aren't the good kind of real estate. You know, the smart guys invest in commercial real estate. So the real estate's always making the money. I invested in residential real estate around the country. And it's just like, just zaps you of all your money, basically.
I was reading that you gave Scientology $5 million. Is that true?
I've probably donated $10 million to Scientology.
Over the course of your career?
$10 million to other things. I'm pretty generous. I've created literacy centers. I've sent kids to college, even kids that I don't even know. I've decorated houses for people that I don't really know but have fallen on hard times. I like to be generous. It's one of my best pleasures in life is to do things for other people. So I think it's fair to say 1/3 of the money I've ever made has been donated.
Wow.
And not just to Scientology, to many, many different kind of charitable organizations. Or my favorite way to do it, honestly, is to find, to do it firsthand. Like when there's a disaster, as an example, Katrina or Oklahoma City bombing or different things, like when there's catastrophes, I like to get a bunch of, what are they called? Giant trucks, but what are they called? What are the big semis? And I just like to fill them with everything that you could possibly imagine, even after tornadoes or after, and then I like to just drive in and give people things or have, open it up, like take whatever you want with people, especially when something's just happened, because it's so horrible when a disaster happens to do the littlest things, like a pair of reading glasses or cigarettes. I one time I was trying to do something with the Red Cross, but they didn't want me to have cartons of cigarettes. And I go, okay, the town was just blown away. What the fuck do you think? If people need cigarettes, they're nervous. Let's get them what they want, and haircuts and ice and different things like that. So I really love doing that kind of one-on-one thing.
How's your head on this whole COVID thing? Because a lot of people are taking it in a lot of different ways. Like I'm almost completely unaffected, but I know other people that are greatly affected mentally or emotionally.
For me, it just took me a while to get a grip on it's very hard to find out the truth about anything now, but it's very hard to find the truth about it. So I just thought, I'm a big proponent. You take full responsibility for your own body and your own self, and you make your own decisions, because if you don't make your own decisions, then if something goes wrong, whatever would go wrong, you're the person who's bitter and you're going to blame someone. So in the very beginning, I just tried to stay, safe enough that, I'm 69. So if I'm 69 and that puts me in the category of, ooh, could be bad, then I just sort of watched it sort of playing out. And then I realized how political it was. And I swung the other way for a while, like, you know what, fuck you, I'll do whatever the hell I want, especially outside. I can have guys run by my house and they have masks on.
Yeah.
There's nobody near them.
I'm
like, what? This is so insane. Or people are playing tennis, 2 people playing tennis. Why in the hell would they have masks? So I think everybody's getting tired of it and rebelling, but I think for me personally, I'm trying to find my way, how I can take responsibility for myself and other people around me, but also not go berserk. And the way it's just to shut down an entire economy. Didn't we all think it was going to be shut down for 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, that's what we're told.
Yeah. And now what is it going to be? Really, what is it going to be shut down? On November 5th?
Whenever the election's over, all this stuff's going to go away. That's my thought.
I don't like that people are, I look at like Amazon, who's got thousands of employees working inside, and I don't think some big epidemic has taken hold in their place. So why can't all the other people just take the precautions and everything's a little bit of a risk. Every year people die of flus and pneumonias and things like that. So there's a little bit of a risk, no matter what.
I know. I'm like, open the stupid schools and let the kids go back to schools. It's like the teachers don't feel it's safe. Like, well, what about everyone who works at a Trader Joe's? They got to go in somewhere. They got to be indoors. They put a mask on. They go to work. Like, there's people working all over the place all the time. And why aren't teachers essential workers? But anyway.
The word essential is so arbitrary. That gets me what's essential is that a person can buy food for their family, can pay their mortgage, can pay their rent, can buy clothes, can get their kids school supplies. That's essential. So I don't know why this other shit, like Home Depot, is essential.
Yeah, well, for me it is, but look, it's arbitrary. Look, if Home Depot's essential, then classrooms and schools are essential.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Everything, when you really look at it, every job is essential because every person has to support their family. So
I agree.
Okay. So saying that we have to just take matters into our own hands.
That's what I've been doing. Have you we were talking a lot about John Travolta has really suffered some tragedy. I mean, he lost his son, he lost his wife very recently. Have you reached out to him? Have you been in contact with him?
Oh, every day, for the last 2 years or 2.5 years. And I was with her for the last month of her life and on and off for the last 2.5 years. The thing about Kelly is the eternal optimist. And her plan, I know that a lot of people thought maybe she kept it secret because of paparazzi and things like that. And that probably would have been horrible if you're going in and out of MD Anderson and there's paparazzi tailing you. But her main deal was she thought she was gonna lick it, She thought that when she cured it, then she could, go public and tell people all the things that she had done to cure it. So she never once mentioned, even to the day she died, that she was going to die or that she wasn't going to make it through it. So, and that's Kelly for you. Kelly's just that person that no matter what, she's the strongest. She really is the strongest woman I know. And the good news, this is like, as people talk about blessings when there's bad things that happen, but the good news is she never had pain, never. And that is that's the biggest blessing I could have for my friend, that she never had pain. And I know that because I was with her till the end.
She passed away. It's only been about 3 or 4 weeks, right?
That's right.
It's not been long at all. And she was fighting, was it breast cancer? What cancer was it?
It started as breast cancer, yes.
And
so many people fight breast cancer and they do get rid of breast cancer. And it would look good, and then it would look bad, and then it would look good, and then it would look bad, and it would look good. You know, it's a real journey, and she fought her way through the whole thing. I mean, I learned a lot about stuff that I never knew about. I'm knocking on wood because I don't have cancer on either side of my family, and I just really knew very little about it, or what someone really goes through doing all those treatments. And she did everything known to mankind to treat it.
And was it apparent? I mean, when did she know, or when did you know that she was going to lose this battle?
Honestly, in about probably the last 5 days of her life.
So it was like a 2-year battle, but not till the very end.
Pardon?
She fought this thing for 2 years, but didn't know until literally the last week.
I'm not so sure she would ever have admitted that she did. Like I said, she was fighting it to the end. You're asking me when I felt like this is it. But I didn't talk to her like this is it. Or you don't say to a person who's the eternal optimist, this is it. Do you know what I mean? I think that's a person's prerogative to decide to talk about the things they want to talk about when they're in that situation. And I think everybody probably handles it very differently when they've been diagnosed with something shocking like that. But yeah, true. Oh my God.
I just I feel so bad for John. He lost his son a couple of years ago, I think, and now his wife.
I know. But don't you find that I have found that I've had different friends, and this is that have lost children, and I feel that it's sort of common that they then can end up with something also. I feel like that is a loss that I don't know how someone gets through that loss. I really don't. And I just feel like I've seen 2 or 3 of my friends who've lost kids go through that, and they've ended up getting something themselves. And I guess the grief is so heavy and the despair is so overwhelming that it then can take a physical toll on you.
Well, when they talk about, stress kind of being a killer, well, what could be more essentially stressful or sort of, well, let's just put it this way. Stress and or just kind of negativity in your life. I'm not going to get all, burn some sage and clear the room on you, but it makes sense that if you have this negativity, this pain, anguish, stress, sort of you're wearing it around your neck, that's going to wear you down. I mean, you can physically see people that have been stressed out for a year, and you see them and they look like they've aged 10 years, right? Right. So when a mother losing a young son is probably the most, especially a mother. I mean, I have kids, and if something happened to them, I'd be devastated, but their mom would be destroyed, right? And so going through that experience, and I think the son, Jet, probably died 3 years ago or something.
No, much longer.
Longer?
Oh, no.
God, how long?
2009.
2009. Oh, it feels so, God, time's flying by. But she has to sort of internalize that and live with that and feel that. And that just cannot be a good thing.
And, my grandmother lost a child when he was 1, and then my mother was killed in a car wreck. And so my grandmother her mother outlived her. And my grandmother said to me that the worst pain she's ever felt in her life is to outlive a child.
How old were you when your mom was killed in the car wreck?
I was 30 because literally my mom got killed in a car wreck, and literally a week later I was hired for my first acting job in Star Trek. So it was a very, I am forever indebted to Paramount and to Nicholas Meyer, the director, because I had never done anything. And I think I was supposed to come back in on a Monday morning to do my final reading. And on Friday night, my mother and father were killed. We're both in a car accident. My mom died. My dad was severely injured. And so I flew to Wichita immediately, and they said, well, we need to see you Monday. And I told my agent to tell them that my mother has just been killed and I can't come there now. And my agent, being an agent, said, well, if I tell them that and you never worked, you're not going to get this job. I said, well, I understand that, but my mother just died and my dad is in the hospital. So anyway, they waited for me, and it almost makes me cry right now when I think about it. You know, they waited for me, and I flew back to LA. I think it was about a week later. And I went in the room and I read for them again. And Nick Meyer said, you've got the job, right on the spot. And I just collapsed because all these things had happened. You know, my dad was in intensive care, and it was just so horrible. And then on top of it, then one of the best things in my life happened, where it started my career. And I got to experience this business of, it's why I say I love show business. I mean, Paramount Studios and all these people waited for me a week, and I'd never done anything in my life, and they championed me. I am forever grateful to people that do things like that. It's just an unreal fairy tale story.
Yeah. Does it feel sort of surreal? Like, the older I get, the more I look back at these chapters in my life, it almost feels like it was a movie I was watching or something. Like, I'm not even sure if I even felt like I was completely there the whole time, or if somebody got me really high right now and said, you never did Loveline, you never did The Man Show, that was just something that's been cooking in your head, I'd go, really? It seems so real. Like, I look back, if you think about like just TV in the 90s, you know, and living in LA and that sort of vibe, it just all seems so different, right? I mean, it was utterly different than it is now.
I feel like it was, you know, the thing that I crave and I yearn for is, it felt like a lightness of being. It felt like a playful life. I feel like so blessed and lucky that I lived so many, you know, I've been acting for 40 years, and I just feel so lucky that I've spent all that time. I mean, I could probably count like creepy things that happened on two fingers, you know? I don't know how I came unscathed through this.
Well, I have a thought. I have a very distinct thought about the creepy things on one hand, or just two fingers of the one hand. Let me just, I'm going to give you some, but you feel free to tell me if you agree or not. Let me hit Dodge here. The summer, take advantage of Dodge Power Dollars. Everyone drive home and any 2020 Challenger, Charger, Durango, and save $10 per horsepower. So the Charger SRT Scat Packs, 485 horsepower, would save you $4,850. See how that works? Lineup includes the most powerful SUVs ever, and the 807 horsepower Dodge Challenger SRT Superstock, by the way. More than just power, first domestic brand to be ranked #1 initial quality and appeal in the same year on J.D. Power. So get your local Dodge dealer, do it this summer, and take advantage of the Dodge Power Dollars while it lasts. Never been a better time to join the Brotherhood of Muscle, and you can do it with Dodge and save a whole bunch of money as well. Here's my thought, but do not let me put words in your mouth.
Okay.
I have had many bad things done to me throughout my life, but I never thought of myself as a victim. And so I never, if someone said to me, were you ever bullied? I'd go, no, I was never bullied. But I've had many people put their hands on me and do plenty of stuff to me. I just never felt like I was being bullied. You know what I mean? And I've talked to many a beautiful woman who was like, nah, I never really had any issues with guys at the office. I never really had anybody. But believe me, if you're a beautiful woman and you're 25 and you work in Los Angeles, somebody's done something. It just didn't register to you as anything. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for it, you're going to find it. But if
Right.
you're not, you won't, and you weren't looking for it.
True, but also something would register. But I've always felt, and maybe I'm just lucky. I know that you can be under a lot of pressure, but I felt like I could speak up. If I didn't like something, I would speak up. If I didn't like it in a big way, I would leave. No one ever tried to rape me. No one ever tried to tie me down. No one ever tried to do something really violent to me, you know? So I'm just saying, I remember once when I was going to art school, I was 14 and I went to stay with these friends of mine in Paseo, Kansas City. It's a really rough neighborhood. And the mom of one of the friends said, okay, here's money. You guys can go to you could go shopping at the plaza, but you have to take a cab back because it's going to be dark and it's very dangerous. And we're like, okay, good. So we went shopping. We spent all of our money, including the cab money. So we're going to walk back, right? And we're walking along and these guys jump out and one holds a knife to my throat. It was so unreal to me that I started laughing because I was thinking, oh my God, your mom is right. This is very dangerous. And it was probably this horrible, nervous laugh, but he was so insane that he takes the knife off and he's like looking at me like I'm a freaking lunatic, you know? And maybe I don't know what I was supposed to do. I guess I was supposed to, I don't know if he was going to kill me or what he wasn't going to do. But for some reason, it taught me a really good lesson. It taught me like, don't be in places like that.
Right.
And don't do stupid things like that and take responsibility for something you're doing. But also if somebody I'm not saying no one ever tried anything on me, but I guess I was lucky because I go, no, or take your hands up. One of the first things I did, someone put their hand on my ass. And I was like, yeah, don't do that.
Well, what I'm saying is if you are, let's just say you're a young black man and you're looking for racism, you will find it. If you're not looking for racism, then you probably won't find it. And I feel it's the same way oftentimes with women. If you're looking for that, you're sure going to find it. If you're wired like you're wired, and many women I know, they go, no, I don't really think that's happened. But it certainly has happened if you were looking for it. You'd definitely be able to tell me 10 incidents where it happened, but you're not wired to find it.
There's an interpretation. I could tell you 10 incidents of when someone was out of line. And then it's what I do with them being out of line. You know, I'm not talking about violence and rapes and kidnapping something and someone, and I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about things that happen and can happen in everyday life where some guy thinks you liked him or he likes you and he sort of pushes you against the wall and kisses you, or some guy pats you on the ass, or some guy does this or that. I want to be able to differentiate. That's the only thing I'm saying. I could interpret it. I could have jumped into the Me Too thing and said things, and were the things correct? No. But I felt like the Me Too movement should have belonged to the people who've had actually horrifying things happen to them, or things where men have threatened them that they will fire them if they don't do sexual things with them. That's a different league to anything that's ever happened to me.
Yes.
You know? It's just a different league. That's all I'm saying. So I felt like that belonged to those people when they said Me Too, that something had happened to them that was very traumatic to them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we shouldn't all be, you know, your dad was, you know, got in a horrific car accident, was in intensive care, and I fell off my skateboard. I shouldn't be trying to equate my experience with his experience. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like that's part of what was going on.
But I think I've gotten that common sense from my dad. You know, my dad and mom were hit by a drunk driver, and my mom was killed and my dad was almost killed. I've never once heard my dad talk about the injustice of all the drunk drivers and all the history of mankind. You know, he was able to differentiate and keep it at that was the consequence of that decision to drive drunk by that woman cost him his wife. So when I look at people though that want to jump on it's like you're saying though, you don't have to You don't have to hate people if they hate you. You don't have to be the victim of something if you don't want to be. I don't want to be a victim of something. I want to be triumphant. Even if something bad happens to me, I want to turn it into something triumphant because it makes my life and everybody around me happier. It's simple.
I agree. The victim culture and the mentality is debilitating to the person you're turning into a victim. Even if they are, in fact, a victim, convincing them they're a victim is going to hobble them and destroy them. Kirstie Alley, I will give her tweet out at Kirstie Alley. Her podcast is coming up. Man, I just blinked my eyes and 2 hours went by.
You're fun to talk to.
Well, I think we'll do it again when you invite me on your podcast.
I definitely will, because we didn't really get into politics. And, I'm better at talking about politics at about 10 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Well, we'll make that happen. Look, I can't believe we've missed each other all these years in Hollywood, but we'll make up for it now.
I look forward to meeting you. I really appreciate you letting me come on here because I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Kirstie. I appreciate it. All right. Last but not least, I'll tell you about Stamps.com, the new normal. Everyone's staying at home. But how about business? Well, luckily, there's Stamps.com. Yeah, everyone's talking about the post office. You don't need the post office. You got Stamps.com. I've used them here for over 10 years for merch, books, paperwork, everything we've sent out. Whether you're a small business sending invoices or you're an online seller and you're shipping products all over the place, work from your home. And if you want to mail stuff, it's easy. Stamps.com lets you buy and print U.S. postage, official U.S. postage, any letter, any package, 24/7. Do it from home. 5 cents off every first-class stamp and up to 62% off of USPS and UPS shipping rates as well. Got a special offer. 4-week trial, plus free postage and digital scale. No long-term commitment. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, top of the homepage, and type in Adam. That's Stamps.com. Enter Adam at the homepage and save all that money. All right. I'm Your Emotional Support Animal is available. The book and the audio book as well. Get them both because they're different. Tempe Improv in Tempe, Arizona, coming up September 18th and 19th. We're doing live pod there. And stand-up as well. You can go to AdamCarolla.com and find out where I'm going to be and check out our YouTube page as well. Good Sports is coming up next. Until next time, it's Adam Carolla for Kirstie Alley saying mahalo.
Stick around. Adam Carolla returns with Dave Damashek for Good Sports right after this.